I got 3 bad bitches in the bag. I don't know how to act. Slide through my district, I'm gonna take your ass. Just hit me in my ass.
Good Samurai Gang, it's your boy Sue, and yes, we're back with another video, y'all. Now this is a different YouTuber that I'm reacting to. I'm reacting to Plot Armor this time because, you know, we haven't reacted to Plot Armor in a while. We've been reacting to Madstar. So I've read the English translations, right? Some of you guys kept saying, oh, Saitama galaxy level, oh, Saitama infinite speed, he's infinite, he don't got no limits, etc, 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 etc. But from my point of view, I'm not trying to downplay, it looked like he had to use more power than he's ever had to against anybody, which is facts, right? He had to use more power against Garo than anybody he's ever faced. He had to use more speed, he had to use more strength to even toy around with Garo, right? So even when people said, oh yeah, Saitama was holding back, Saitama holds back against every single body. He's held back against Sonic, he's held back against the Sea King, he held back against that fake Titan, he's held back against Boros, he's held back against a lot of people, right? Y'all kept trying to tell me that he's never used his full power, so he held back against all those people that he one-shotted, right? But then Garo comes, right? With all his massive power-ups, copying Saitama's powers and shit like that, right? He had to use more power. So that's just what it is. Let's dive on in. If you're new to the channel and you like videos like this, subscribe, bro. Subscribe to the channel, please. Thank you. We're almost at 30,000 subs. Please subscribe for more stuff, for more videos like this. Let's check it out.
With this latest chapter of One Punch Man, we finally received the grand finale for our Monster Association arc. Boy, oh boy, was it unreal. First and foremost, we received one of the most powerful fist bumps in all of fiction. As he...
here we go. I hate when people do this. The most powerful fist bump in all of fiction. It wasn't stronger than Goku and Beerus. Stop! All of it. Oh my god. I can't stand. You know what? Hold on. I can't stand One Punch Charge, bro. What they even did? What did they do? No offense. No offense to you guys, but come on, bro. Stop.
This of Garo and Saitama meet in full color, accompanied by the words, "Awakening of the Gods." Now that is most definitely a heavy proclamation, and as you can see, there is something a bit off about Garo's arm here, which we will come to better understand later on in the chapter. Kicking things off in blurring motion, we'd have Garo reeling back a punch from a distance, only to cut said distance almost immediately by way of a warp gate, intending to assail Saitama, who had instead managed to successfully avoid the blow entirely. Yet as Garo's arm remained extended beyond, Saitama would seize the opportunity and use the gate Garo had opened to do what he couldn't, and deliver. And as he flew back, Garo opened yet another gate, doing so in an attempt to catch Saitama off guard from behind. The two would then strike one another in perfect unison, as if engaged in the most violent display of synchronized dance ever performed. Garo kicked onto Saitama's head, embedding him further into the rubble beneath his feet. And Saitama grit his teeth as he plunged his fist deep into the abdomen of the space-themed hero hunter, therefore sending him right back from whence he came.
Usually, if Saitama hits you, he's gonna, you know, kill you, right? Tario, the boy's already dead. He's dead. So there's nothing holding Saitama back from just one-shotting him. But if he does, that means that he had to use more power than he was supposed to against Garo.
A fraction of a millisecond that took Garo's body to partially emerge from yet another rift in time and space. Hoping to hit the ball of wonder, Saitama had propelled upwards. Now located on a massive boulder above Garo, he suddenly launched off faster than any rocket ever conceived. The sheer force of this would easily shatter the impromptu foothold as he would uphold his depraved expression. From there, he would deliver a chop onto Garo's neck, what I find to be pretty disrespectful to a character that so thoroughly prides himself on his martial arts prowess. But then again, it wouldn't be the first time. Good lord, this time, the fallout would distort the world around them. Saitama intended to disrespect Garo here by copying the man's moves and use them against him. Once Garo realized this...
You know what's crazy? That chop would have killed anybody else, but it didn't kill Garo. He said, you said you were going to copy me when I was serious and surpass me, didn't you? Go ahead and try. Talking heavy.
Bring up the fact that Garo previously swore to copy Saitama when he's serious for the sake of surpassing him. Saitama now.
So, is he not serious? Saitama's actually serious, though. Because if he wasn't serious, I wouldn't know what to tell you, bro.
So, would beckon him to do so. No matter what, he was going to punish Garo. At this point, Garo was being pummeled, and he had no idea how, since he was countering the guy with just as much power. Yet every time Saitama hit him, his strikes became harder and harder, to the point where he could not keep up. Garo would plunge his fist into Saitama's stomach, only to then receive a mean uppercut to the chin, as he recognized himself to be far behind Saitama at this point. Anytime he met Saitama, the bald man would suddenly excel even further beyond. The attacks were becoming both more numerous and more dangerous. At this rate, Garo knew as his body began to break down, that eventually, one of these punches would prove to be fatal and kill him. Garo may be able to match Saitama's strength from moment to moment, but he certainly cannot do so in regards to the man's durability and endurance. But what is downright chilling...
So that means that he can't copy power levels. He cannot copy them. Because if he could, he would be able to match Saitama blow for blow, durability and all. He's not as durable as Saitama. That's crazy. But we knew this already.
That even at this point, Saitama was continuing to grow. As it turns out, his rate of growth had gone completely unnoticed by all, on account of nobody being even remotely on par with his strength. Yet on account of his loss of Genos, his already virtually incomprehensible growth rate had increased exponentially. This was all on account of a surge of emotions, the likes of which he had never experienced before. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the equivalent of Saitama going Super Saiyan on planet Namek. And based on this associated chart, Saitama is now at least twice as powerful as Cosmic Fear Mode Garo. And that is only in a matter of milliseconds. We are counting milliseconds here. Remember, this fight is going at the speed of light and beyond. So this is...
Oh, so as fast as what a Dragon Ball fight would be. Okay.
Is at the millisecond mark. If this were to go on for a minute long, too, I mean, that is just downright mind-boggling. Especially when we consider the fact that even now, in holding Genos' core, in deciding not to outright kill Garo, Saitama is still holding back.
He's holding back, and he's fighting with one hand, yet he's actually trying. Because like I said before, right, he was holding back against all his opponents. But for some weird reason, when he will hold back against all his other opponents like Boros, Sea King, the Titan, Sonic, it always ended in a kill. Except for Boros. It took like multiple hits to kill Boros. But anybody else was automatic food. He one-shotted them. Every time he did like a little punch. He didn't even use a serious punch. How many serious table flips punches Saitama had to do against Garo to end him? He had to do a lot. But he's holding back. Do you see where the confusion is coming from? It doesn't make sense. He's holding back, but then we seen him hold back. But yet he killed everybody else. Him actually trying still didn't kill Garo. Still didn't. It took multiple hits to kill Boros. Right? Anybody else, especially in the manga when he was bathing in lava, right? He one-shotted the lava monster or whatever. I don't remember that part clearly, but I remember him one-shotting that monster easily. Right? And that was him holding back. He wasn't trying. So what's the difference with this fight right here? There is no difference. He's actually outputting more power. As the graph showed, he's putting out more power. Use your head. He's holding back, but he's trying. Because if he wasn't trying, he would still be stagnant. He wouldn't try to output more power. He wouldn't need to grow if he wasn't trying, if he was holding back. That's how I'm seeing it. He's actually trying. He's not. I feel like he's giving like at least 30%. At least 30%.
Regardless, the base level has risen. We have actual confirmation that Saitama does in fact continue to grow.
Now, I thought he didn't have limits. I thought he broke his limits. So if somebody breaks their limits, right, they don't grow anymore, right? They broke their limiter, right? So if he's continuing to grow, that says that he stagnated, he had a limit, and then he pushed past that limit. He's continuing to grow. The no limit fallacy it's funny with these one punch cards. Like, come on.
That is both an incredibly hype and terrifying revelation. Frankly, this uproots everything we know about the guy.
Thank you.
Right now, in this particular moment, in this particular instance, is the only one strong enough to observe Saitama's growth. But Saitama was growing so fast that at this point, he would not be able to do so for much longer. Saitama, however, was beginning to get a bit chilly on account of having his whole outfit destroyed. Which is very fascinating indeed, as we now have an idea of just how cold conditions need to be in order for him to even remotely feel the effects. Note that on average, the temperature of outer space is negative 455 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 270 degrees Celsius.
That's cold.
Now, that is just crazy. Garo now was very frustrated by the increasing futility.
And mind you, because space, that's crazy. Think about it. With all the stars that's in the universe, bro, it's only negative 450. Oh, I said negative 450. Negative 270 degrees. That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Zephyrs would attempt to get a warp punch off yet again. A pointless attempt, as Saitama would catch his fist without issue. And it was in that very moment that Saitama had gotten way too far for Garo to even comprehend his power. Saitama would begin to inhale on the precipice of a sneeze. And sneeze he would, doing so with enough force to part the sea of debris behind Garo. This was a serious sneeze, and in mere moments, it would not only collide with the gas giant known as Jupiter, but furthermore disperse the hydrogen sea of the planet to the point.
So, like, my thing is this. How did they do all of that but miss Garo completely? Like, do you see, like, Garo dodged it, right? But he's still right in front of Saitama. So all he did was this. But then the sneeze, like, what?
Clearly, very clearly, exposing its core. Now mind you, in regards to size, according to NASA, if Earth were the size of a nickel, Jupiter would be as big as a basketball. Suffice to say, it is a good thing there are no holes in Garo's armor. The sneeze would send the two hurtling elsewhere as Garo's fear of Saitama began to really show.
Are you a Roblox fanatic? Microsoft Rewards has a brand new way for you to earn digital gift cards.
He was sure that someone like Saitama shouldn't be able to walk around on Earth on his own, only to then think to himself that perhaps the same could be said about him. And here the visuals for Garo kind of remind me of how Phoenix Man looked towards the end of his life. However, just then, Garo would notice his son, and soon after just a bit more scanning, he would also take notice of Earth. Knowing that all he needed to teleport to a location was to have it within range of you, Garo believed luck to still be on his side here. For the sake,
I got a question though. Like, this is off topic. Somebody answer it. If you guys come across this question, somebody answer it. So what's at the bottom of the universe? Like, what's there? Because isn't gravity holding up the planets and stars and whatnot, right? So like, what's at the bottom of space? Like, what's there? I don't know. I want to know what's at the bottom of space, to be honest.
to make his escape, Garo would punch Saitama in the face, resulting in an expansion of a massive ball of light. And with this, he would rush away from the hero, then use his teleportation to take him elsewhere. And with this, Garo successfully made it back to the hospitable planet. And doing so, believed himself to be the victor. But to spoil his fun would be Saitama just behind him, complimenting the convenience of Garo's move as victory and hope left the eyes of the young man. Now shaking horribly, Garo could not make sense of things as he was certain to have sent Saitama flying in the other direction. To which Saitama would respond to by saying that he had a stomach ache from the cold and was holding it in. But when the flash of light surprised him, a fart came out, propelling him just behind Garo as he had just enough momentum to catch up. What an absolutely ridiculous and juvenile move, but totally a Saitama one indeed. And before Garo could even respond, he would have Saitama's fist a taste as the hero brought them back down to the planet below. Saitama here is humbling Goro by bringing him back down to Earth. Once they met the ground and Saitama looked down, the false visage of his own face would be shattered and destroyed. Saitama, now recognizing the location to be the same as before, would wonder if Garo was aiming to come back here specifically. As Saitama lifted his fist, Garo would wonder why he wasn't being killed. Saitama would pause for a moment before admitting that compared to someone with so many quick costume changes like Garo or King, he wasn't really cut out for this line of work at all, and he hated it. But the reason he had spared Garo was because he is a hero. Not only that, but it was Tadeo's final request that he stop Garo without killing him. Now, Garo didn't really hear much beyond that last part, as he would then look away from Saitama. And what he saw was the lifeless body of young Tadeo. And absolutely nothing chilled him more than that. The sight of the boy he so cared for, now being so devoid of life, crushed him as he cried out in despair. Garo would then get back on his feet and run in the opposite direction while screaming. A reaction which confused Saitama, as again, Tadeo was in the opposite direction. And it's with this that we would now have Cosmic Tear Mode Garo as he cried his eyes out, knowing damn well that this was all because of him. That he was too close to Tadeo.
But he didn't care at the moment when he got that power, though. I thought he was ultimate evil.
He killed him. From there, Garo would trip on a rock and fall as he continued to sob. And as he did so, he'd recognize himself to be the ominous future. Saitama would admit that Garo had been acting strangely since he fell down from the sky, and would ask if the guy was sure some weirdo didn't do something to him. Garo's only response would be that if they did, it was because his spirit was too weak to begin with. Garo found his own story to be so laughable, as by failing to defeat Saitama, he couldn't possibly become absolute evil. And to make matters worse, the hero that took him down doesn't even believe he is suited for hero work. If only Saitama could have pretended for his sake, that if only Saitama simply killed him, fueled by his own lofty sense of justice, he would have gone out like the villain he intended to become. That now the person he wants to save first by changing things was gone, all because of him. A notion which Saitama would question, wondering if instead, Garo was just clinging to him for support. A concept which angered Garo, as in his mind, a being of such unimaginable power couldn't possibly fathom the prospect of leaning on another. But when he looked at Saitama, he corrected himself. He took notice of Genesis' core, which was still within Saitama's grasp, and realized that even Saitama was acting similarly. He couldn't believe that someone of this level of power could be mentally normal. Saitama would then question what Garo intended to do from here. Garo, with his posture slumped, would ask Saitama for a favor. Garo's proposal was for Saitama to copy him, which Saitama found to be a bit strange. After all, he would be copying a copycat. But Garo, despite not wanting to see Saitama with the hands, still wasn't a fan of his mockery. This chapter was already crazy, but here is where things become truly
yeah, so now Saitama could copied the ability to time travel. That's crazy.
Unbelievable. It was Garo's firm belief that Saitama should be able to replicate his techniques and even go as far as to surpass them. What he intended to do was provide to Saitama the most powerful ultimate technique of his fist that even he has yet to make use of, despite having stolen the power of God. Garo felt entitled to Saitama's gratitude, but Saitama wasn't really feeling it, as this was hardly a polite way to request a favor. Saitama also didn't see the point, but Garo insisted that he try and see the result for himself. And after seeing the newfound resolve in Garo's eyes, Saitama would agree, willing to take whatever he could at this point. And at that, it only made sense for someone like Saitama to skip ahead to the ultimate technique. Garo would then begin his demonstration, fully believing that if someone could stand to master the power of God without taking the creature's hand, it would be Saitama. At which point, however, God would decide to rescind the gifts of Garo, a declaration that this time, Saitama would actually be able to hear, interestingly enough. The chitinous exterior would then begin to fade from Garo's body, what oddly enough tasted like salt to Saitama. But this was no time for that, as Garo would yell out for his former adversary to concentrate, which Saitama would follow, giving his full attention. And in doing so, the two men would begin to imagine their own inner universes, which is just madness, mind you. Within Garo, there were particles and antiparticles created in pairs by his cosmic rays. And as each subatomic particle began moving in opposite directions, the two began to imitate the movements of the other. Meanwhile, when the particles within Saitama did this, something monumental would occur. Garo would then tell Saitama to go and defeat it. From here...
Also... So why did Garo turn into dust, right? So how come this Garo didn't go back in time and fuse with his other self?
Saitama would jettison beyond reality. Garo had faith in Saitama more than anyone now. He placed the responsibility of taking down that ominous future onto him as his last words before being made into a brutal statue that blew away in the wind.
But notice how it happened to Saitama too, because he moved back too. I'm not sure if you guys seen it, but it was right. Wait.
He placed the responsibility of taking down that ominous future onto him as his last words before being made into a brutal statue that blew away in the wind after God the particles within.
Yeah, right here. Unless that's just him moving back, but.
God. Saitama wasn't all too privy in regards to the nuance of all this time travel stuff, but did as he was told to the best of his ability and swung towards the prior instance of Garo. With that, we'd head back to the moment where Cosmic Fear Mode Garo stood before the many heroes and they became overcome with fear. And you already know it is smelling crazy in that location at this point. Garo again would look to the sky and begin to utter the words "thank you," only to be interrupted by a major fist to the face. Saitama had regularly been further empowered during his time on Io, and by way of going back in time,
that punch that only powered up on Moon of Jupiter went back in time and landed before it was thrown. Oh, so this was a way, like, so this one punch right here was just powered up from when he was fighting. Okay, got you.
His fist landed before it was thrown. This was a reversal of causality. The typical notion of cause and effect had been rendered irregular in this particular instance, and the blow was completely and utterly unavoidable. In fact, confusingly enough perhaps, this didn't actually take one punch. It literally took 0 punches to finish this battle. Long story short, science is freaky. Now interestingly, plenty of heroes are here to
I don't get what you meant by that.
witness this act by way of Saitama, which is quite contrary to the typical situation with him. We even have Genos alive and somewhat well, calling out to him and claiming him to be his master publicly. Bang would cry out Garo's name, which would then prompt many of the heroes on the scene to recognize this to in fact be the Hero Hunter, which is a big deal, as regardless of their understanding of his capabilities at this point or not, Garo had managed to defeat several S-class heroes, so to beat him just like that is huge. Garo would recoil from the strike and quickly begin to feel his power escaping him as he clutched onto himself in confusion and despair. From his body would soon emerge an illuminating light that covered the entirety of the surrounding area. But before anything else, Saitama would suddenly be pulled in a certain direction. As this timeline Saitama finally emerged from the rubble he was beneath, future Saitama, as we'll call him, was on the verge of crashing with his prior self, now actually realizing what was happening. As once they met, they become one. And once they were, Saitama here was now really confused. He wondered what he was doing, as he could only remember Garo using his special move, which is to say that his memories of the ominous future had been erased, along with his knowledge of how to time travel. It is a one and done, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, shit.
However, things didn't entirely go back to normal. Saitama's eyes would suddenly widen, as in his hands as he shook in terror was Genos' core. And to make matters worse, his schlong was out for some reason. What had to be an absolutely terrifying series of events. However, this does tell us something. His body did become one with his quote-unquote future self, which is to say that Saitama got much, much more powerful. We not only have Saitama times Saitama, we have Saitama times a stronger Saitama. In theory, at least. But yeah, in the midst of his fear, Genos would intrude.
Now watch how people will run with that. Oh, Saitama fused with his future self, so therefore he's infinitely.
Master, knocking him a distance away and onto his head. Genos, having done a far less playful version of this to Garo in the previous timeline, would apologize to Saitama for getting too carried away. However, Saitama was just glad Genos was still alive despite the core in his hand. Now, frankly, this was a very hefty and dense chapter of One Punch Man. And so with that, there is most definitely a whole lot that we'd like to further discuss with all of you over the course of subsequent uploads, so please be sure to be here for all of those. And please let us know what you thought about this. My mind is just blown. Saitama can time travel? Like, what? But as always, I'm /Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an awesome day. I love you.
Alright, y'all. If you guys, you know what? Just comment down below what you guys think. See you guys in the next video. Peace. Yeah.